two properties are for sale and they both say they have water with the property. And depending on the water, they both have value, but it can make a huge difference what you end up with and what you can do with the land that you're looking to buy. So water is critical. We're going to talk about the difference between water rights and water shares. And at the end of this video, I'm going to give you a question that I recommend you always ask when you're looking to buy land about the water. It can make a huge difference in increasing your confidence and reducing your risk so that you get the water that you need for what you want to do with that land. So let's start out with water rights. First, we need to distinguish between two things. First, all water, at least in the state of Utah, is owned by the state. It's owned by the public. And you can get the right to use the water, and that's called a water right. That water right allows you to use the water, but there are certain characteristics and restrictions that come with that water. And the water right is not necessarily going to be sold with the land. Water rights can be sold separately from the land. I'm going to go through a list of things that you need to evaluate if a water right is being sold with the land. Next is a water share. A water share allows you to have a proportionate amount of water from an entity. So an entity has already received a certain amount of water rights from the state, whether it's a canal company, an irrigation company, a ditch company, and then they take that water and they get shareholders, and each of those shareholders have the right to access water from that entity. Now, there's also restrictions that come with that, but typically that is going to be sold with the land that you're purchasing. It is personal property, and I've seen many times where water shares have been sold outside of being sold with land. So you got to watch for that also. So sometimes you might be buying 10 acres and you have 2 acre-feet of water rights, and maybe you have 5 water shares with the land. So you can get quite a disparity in water rights and water shares. So let's go back to water rights. And there's 6 things that you need to be checking on with water rights. First, you want to get the ownership. Make sure that the seller, the way that they are marketing the water with that land is as per the record with the state. So the seller has it in their name, and what is the source of that water? So the source might be a well, the source might be a creek, a ditch, a spring, and is it in their name? Because often people don't get that transferred into their name, and you may be buying from Joe Smith a certain number of acres, but the water is in 2 or 3 previous owners' names. It was never transferred. And so you want to make sure that that is in the correct owner's name that's being sold to you. It will make it so much easier if you get that into the seller's name, and so that you can then get it transferred to you once you close on that property. The second thing is the source. Like I said, whether it's a spring, whether it's a well, a creek, whatever it is, you want to know what the source is. And third is what the diversion, where the diversion is. Because sometimes they might be selling a water right that is in a spring, but it might not even be located on the property that you're buying. Or it might be a ditch, but you don't have access to divert the water from that ditch to the land that you're buying. Or it might be a well, but you only have a certain number of acre-feet and a certain amount of water that you can get out of that. So you want to look at the diversion, third. Fourth is the quantity. You want to know how much water that you're able to get from that source. Fifth is the authorized use. What is the water authorized for? If you're looking to do a development, or you want to have just livestock, or you want to have agriculture, you want to have pine trees, fruit trees, something like that, you need to know what the authorized use is of that water. Can you use it for what you want to do with that property? Last is priority date. So priority date, when the state gives the right to use water, a water right, they give a date of when that authority was given to the person who purchased that authority. And if somebody has authority prior to your priority date, they can take the water before you. So let me give you an example. Say that you've got some fields. You have 4 5-acre fields, and each of these owners, these 4 owners, have water rights to a ditch of water. But the priority date is different for each of these 4 owners. Whoever has the earliest priority date has first access to the water. Now, if it's a person at the end of those 4 fields, they may be able to take the water first and nobody else gets any water. I've seen situations where somebody has access to the water with an early priority date and it's flood irrigated, and when they actually water their fields, the water will flow down to the next field and down to the next field. And so it almost doesn't matter where the priority date of those other people, where the other property owners have, because the water is going to flow onto their property through flood irrigation. Now, if it's pressurized irrigation, other transmissions, other ways of transmitting the water, that may have a greater impact. But you want to look at these 6 things so that you know what you're getting. When you settle, when you close on that property, you're going to want to take your settlement documents and you're going to go to the state with your closing document, and you're going to show them that as per the contract and as per the closing documents and the warranty deed of that property, you now have the ownership of that water right, and the state will fill out some paperwork and you'll get that water put into your name. Now, a water share is a little different. A water share, when you close with that water share, it's like a title for a vehicle in most cases. They're going to have a share certificate, and the seller is going to sign that over to you with all the other closing documents. So then when you sign, you're going to get that share certificate. So let's go through the questions that you need to ask about a water share. There's 4 questions. There's 4 questions about a water share that I recommend that you ask. First one is the same, the ownership. You want to make sure that what the seller is telling you is correct. How many shares are they selling? And check with the entity, the irrigation company, canal company, make sure and confirm that this owner has these shares, that they are up on their assessments, there's no lien against the shares, they're owned free and clear. Make sure the ownership is clean for you. Second is quantity. You want to confirm the quantity of water that comes with each share. When somebody says, oh, I got 20 shares of water for this property that I'm selling with it, but if it's only a 1/4 acre foot of water per share, that's not very much. If it's 3 or 4 acre feet per share, that's quite a bit. So you're going to want to find out how much water is included with each share of water for that property, and is it going to meet the requirements that I have for that property? Am I going to be able to do with that property what I want to do with that property? Third is the delivery system. Again, most water shares need to be sold within a geographical area of that entity that controls that water. Typically, that's going to be where they have either their pressurized system or their flood, their ditches, their gates, and that system has to stay in there. Now, you can also check on diversion. A 4th thing, you can check on what that entity will allow for diverting water, because some entities won't allow you to divert water. That water has to stay in that system for that land. Other entities will allow you to divert water from one place to another within that system, or from surface water to groundwater. And so that's a 4th thing that you can check on that. So really you have 5 questions that you should be looking at. And the last one, the 5th question that you want to ask about water shares, is about the company. You want to look at how much they assess per share of water. What's the assessment? How much do they have in reserves? How many special assessments do they have? How old is their system? Do they take care of their system? Are they doing upgrades to the system? Just a lot of information so you know what you're getting into when you get ownership of these water shares. Now, water shares also in Utah, there's another implication with water shares. I'll give you an example. There's an area by what's called West Mountain of Utah. It's by Utah Lake in Utah County. And what happened with this area, well, first of all, you got a lot of people buying and selling land in this area. And a lot of landowners will say, hey, we've got 3, 4, 5 shares of water that we're selling with this land. But for this specific area, it's called the Goshen management area, water management area. And they started back in, I think it was 2020, 2022, restricting the water usage. Because as the state, they take pretty much areas all throughout the state, they watch the aquifers. And this area specifically, Goshen area, the aquifers have just been getting depleted and depleted, and they're not coming back up. And so just a few years ago, they started restricting, you can't exchange a surface water, okay, a water right, for groundwater anymore. They're not taking that for an exchange. In most areas of the state, you can take a water right or a water share and you can transfer it into groundwater or a well. So then you have a culinary source. If it's easier access, you can divert it so you can water some orchard or livestock. But in this area, you can't do that. So beware of areas like this and make sure, okay, I'm gonna get water shares, but can I use those water shares for the purpose that I want them? In that case, you need to buy groundwater. You need to buy somebody who already either has a well or they have authorization for a well. And you gotta watch that, because if the aquifers keep getting depleted, the state may turn around and say, hey, if you haven't already drilled a well, we're not even going to allow you to do that. Even if you have the authorization for a well, we're not going to allow that anymore. So there's things that are always changing with the state, at least here in Utah. And so you've got to watch that just because of the water situation. Now, there are other areas in the state of Utah where you don't need to have any surface water to get a well permit. It's called open water area. And you can just apply for a well permit if you can show that you're going to put it to beneficial use. And you pay the fee, you make the application, and you can get a well permit in most cases. So these are some things that you need to evaluate and make sure that you're working with a competent realtor who's going to help you get through this process. Now, I said I was going to give you two questions. I was going to give you a question to ask about water. No matter what it is that you're buying, whether it's in a city, it's in the country, what it is, the question that you need to ask. So if anybody says, and they have on their listing, water is included, you want to ask them, what water is being conveyed to me, and you have the documentation to support what that water can be used for. Then go through those questions, those 6 questions for a water right, the 5 questions for a water share. Save this video, go back to it, and use it to help you get through this process and increase your confidence and reduce your risk of getting the land that you want and the water with the land so you can do what you want with it. Now, leave me a comment and let me know if you have any experiences that you want to share that might help other people as they go through this process. And if you have any questions, put it in the comment. Maybe there'll be another video that I do and it will help other people who have the same question.